And we welcome you to the June edition of Eye on the Storm. Randy Payton, the Sports Information Director here at the University of Rio Grande, joined by Athletic Director Jeff Lanham. Middle of the summer, obviously, folks taking vacations, camps going on, but plenty of things going on in terms of University of Rio Grande athletics. So a lot of that deals with recruiting. Well, of course, we've got a couple of new programs here on campus, golf and bowling, and we're going to talk with one of those head coaches in our program today. But again, it's not a time where nothing's going on.
No, you're right. We've had this conversation before. It's 365, sometimes 7 days a week with what we do, and that's kind of the way it is today. We really don't have off seasons. Any sport has off seasons, and so, you know, because of that, we stay pretty busy throughout the summer. One
guy who is staying very busy throughout this summer is Keith Wilson. He is the head golf coach as we start our golf program up here at the University of Rio Grande again, and he is on the show today. And Keith, we welcome you to the show, and I guess for the folks who may not be familiar with who you are, kind of tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was the coach at Jackson High School, and luckily got this job. I think luckily, I'm not sure. But was married for 30 years, 37 years I think exactly, and lived around the area all the time. Was actually recruited by Rio Grande back in the middle 70s on the last golf team when it was around.
That's new to me. I did not know that.
Well, I just looked it up to myself.
Oh,
and
okay.
We had talked, and so we've been successful in the fact that we've got a pretty good program, or we had a pretty good program in the high school level, and was lucky enough to coach a state champion, and so we're hoping to bring that to the Rio team now.
So what is the 19 years, is that right? 19 years as high school, and you really haven't got into the college part of playing yet. That won't start till fall of 17, but can you give me some challenges or comparisons between coaching high school and coaching golf at this point? We'll get you later after we get through a season or so.
Well, I think one of the things that in high school you were shooting for 320 to 330 on an 18-hole score for your 4 scores. In college, you're looking at maybe 300 to 310. So there's about a 20-shot difference, and these kids hit the ball a lot longer than high school kids.
Right,
they really hit the ball a long way, so that's going to be different.
I know you and I had talked before. One of the challenges that you faced thus far, the timing of you getting the job and getting the recruiting process started. You were kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit.
Yeah, the high school season was over in October. Most of the students who were recruited and had signed were taken. And when we started in February, March time span, we were 6 months behind, basically. And so we've been out there every day. We're trying hard, and I think we've got a good program that will be set up and ready to go. It's just that this first year is going to be a little trying.
All right.
Do we have, tell us about like our home courses where we will practice and even eventually play some matches there as well?
Yeah, our home course is Cliffside down in Galplis, and basically it's 2 completely different golf courses on each 9. The 1-9, which involves the cliff, more of a gimmick shot, where you don't have to hit driver every time, and you have to play really good irons. The lower portion, the flat portion, a little more water, as I found out the other day playing.
That's right.
But rear back with a tee ball and hit it down the middle of the fairway and hit the middle of the green and putt. That's the bottom half. Franklin Valley, which we're looking at to have as a backup golf course, very good practice facility. Again, two completely different golf courses on the 9 holes. Front 9 very hilly. Again, don't hit the driver maybe once or twice. And then the back 9 at Franklin Valley is very flat, tree line, so there's more of an importance on distance and accuracy there.
Kind of we talked about the recruiting process. How far along in it are you? I guess not only trying to get a program going this year, but you're also, I would assume, recruiting for beyond already.
Oh yeah, yeah. This year's team is going to be a minimal number. Next year's team we are very proud of. We think we've got a very good group of juniors coming in. That's where I was this morning. Got hopefully 3 more juniors and 2 seniors that are looking at our program. But basically, we'll have 5 real solid men golfers this year with 2 others that are looking to come in. And then the girls program, right now we actually only have 1 commitment, so we still need 4. And hopefully 2 of those we met this morning with. So we're working at it.
What is your, I know that when you took the position and, you know, we got all the budgetary and all those things, the paperwork out of the way, and one of the first things you wanted to do is you wanted to sign your first golfer. Can you describe that and talk about him a little bit?
Oh yeah, he's my pride and joy. Yeah. He's one that I actually saw when he was 8 years old, and we had him in a juniors clinic up at Fairgreens in Jackson, Ohio, and we started kind of grooming him, so to speak, and then he was our #1 man captain and everything on the high school team last year, and Jared LeMaster was our first signing, and as we saw the other day, he can play pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was kind of the goal,
right,
from the beginning to be the first signee.
Well, and the thing about you mentioned this about the high school scores. You know, you got a 1 through 5, and you take 4, but here those 5 golfers are probably golfers that were number 1 or 2 off their high school team coming in, so that those scores will go down because of that, and they've got to be ready to compete not only against outside foes, but against themselves, within, you know, and that's what's interesting about golf, to be able to have that. You know, we're going to go out and play, and it's you determine it. You determine your score and place where you're trying to do this. Mm-hmm. So that, I mean, that's something different as well of what you're looking at. That's a positive as a coach.
Yes, it's a wonderful positive as a coach. Prove yourself, and then go play at that level. Yeah, we really and truthfully enjoy it because it is black and white pretty much. If you score in the low 5 scores, you're going to play the next week type thing. On the other hand, as far as the mingling and the mixing in between the 5 players on the team that day, you may have your 5th guy shoot better than the 1 guy.
Right.
I mean, it's the talent is that close.
Right.
And you don't have kind of the diversity in the scores as you would in high school.
Well, let me ask you this, and since you've been out on the recruiting trail, give me what you're looking for and it's not just can you shoot par. I mean, I think there's more to it than that. Tell me maybe a philosophy about that.
What we're looking for is, first of all, score. Right. I mean, that brings me into the ball game, so to speak. We look at the overall individual. We would love to have academically excellent students that come in. Again, our philosophy is that you can play golf the rest of your life. You're going to play golf the rest of your life. But if I can get you a diploma, then, you know, a lot of my job is done. So we're looking at that. We're looking at kids that can mesh. Okay. A lot of our trips will be 3 days, 2 nights in a motel, a lot of travel time in a bus. Mm-hmm. So we have to have people who can get along with each other. And the family, it's very important to have great family and to have a good life off the golf course. We hope that we won't have any problems off the golf course. And that's kind of my whole goal.
Keith Wilson is our guest here on the June edition of Eye on the Storm, and we'll have more Eye on the Storm in a moment.
Okay. Wait, before you go back, we're going to mention.
And we welcome you back to Eye on the Storm. Randy Payton, Jeff Lanham, joined today by Rio head golf coach Keith Wilson. And before we let you go, I wanted to get in a question about where do you think in this first year Rio golf is going to fall inside the River States Conference? I know there's a couple of good programs. I think Midway's got a nice women's program. Point Park's pretty strong as well.
Yeah, I think we're going to be middle of the road. I mean, seriously, I think we're going to be truly in the middle of the road. 2 years, 3 years from now, we want to be in that upper echelon of the conference. 5 years from now, hopefully nationally we can be competitive. That's with the men. Now with the women, this year's going to be, again, probably middle of the road. I think next year we're going to be very good. So that, you know, we're hoping on that. And then again, pretty much the same goals for both teams. So
Very good. So who do you have helping with you? You're doing both head coach of both men's and women's programs, and you've got some individuals around you that's helping you.
yeah, we've got really good assistant coaches, both of whom have played college golf, and both of whom are different personalities,
Right.
but very capable of doing their job. One is a local guy, and Nick Saunders, who actually works down at our Cliffside Golf Course, which is our home course. Very good at playing the game himself.
And he can swing coach as well, right?
Yeah, and yes, yes, he can. And on the girls' side, we have Nicole Ashman, and she's right now graduated from Walsh University. Going to come down. Wonderful personality, from Bolivia originally. So she'll be able to handle some of our international students and those kind of concerns. Again, very good player.
She has a year to play.
She actually has a year to play, and she will be playing for
like
us.
a player coach.
Yes.
The old ABA basketball stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And both of those people will become pretty active come the month of August. We'll get them really into the program and moved in and taken care of, and then hopefully the team will start 1st of August.
Well, we wish you obviously the best of luck as we get the program off the ground, and we look forward to working with you, and great to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Keith Wilson, the head golf coach here at the University of Rio Grande. A couple other things that we want to touch on this month's show. Jeff, some great news in terms of what athletics overall was able to accomplish, and that was through the Commissioner's Cup. Rio Grande wins it here in 2016-17. They actually tie Indiana Southeast, but get the win based on the number of championships won. 11 sports here at Rio, and 6 of them won league championships.
It was, Randy, and that was a pretty exciting time. We We have been runner-up the last 2 years. This was our third year being close, and the idea that we did capture 6 conference championships. So see if we can name all those. We have men's and women's cross country.
Correct.
We have men's soccer.
Correct.
We have softball. We have baseball.
Nope.
No, not base. Softball, men's and women's track and field.
There you go.
I got too many spring sports in there. So that was our 6 that we've got. And it's kind of a funny reference to tying a year ago in our athletic directors meetings. In the bylaws, there was nothing for a tie. It never had been a tie before, as far as they could tell. And so we said, you know, we should have something. We should have a tiebreaker. And that's what we voted and put in. And lo and behold, the first year we have it, after that we have a tie. And, you know, so it's good. It says something about how our student athletes, our administration, our coaches, you know, the desire and the passion that they have for their sport. It's a big plus, and it's not, as I stated, it's really not about all those championships. It's really about the people, and that's what
Right.
that is what makes me so proud to say that we're a part of the River States Conference, is because of the people within the conference, and that's as exciting as anything that we have going on.
And kind of to describe how they come up with this formula, 10 points awarded if you win first place,
Right.
and then on down, and what it is basically is an average. Rio Grande sponsoring 11 sports, 88 points, an average of 8.0. IU Southeast, 7 sports and 56 points, so the same
Right.
average, but
Right.
again, based on the number of championships, Rio
Right.
gets the nod.
Right.
On that same line, scholar athletes honored by the River States Conference, and they put out a long list over the course of the weekend, and kind of interesting, did a little math, and Rio Grande with 109 student athletes this year that were named scholar athletes by the River States Conference. The next closest school in the league, Asbury, was 75. So again, I guess in a way it's a little misleading when you have more athletes maybe than some of the other schools do in the league, but the bottom line is those were 109 kids
That's
that got
correct.
the job done.
And what we were, you know, you and I were talking about this, that it is total numbers, but if you look at our overall total numbers and then the number of people who had the academic awards, you know, we're well over 1/3 of our student athletes are receiving academic awards, and I think that's pretty good. That a 333 batting average will get you in the Hall of Fame, won't it? So that's
More
what
often
we're,
than not.
yeah, more often than not. So that's our goal. We always want to increase that. We want those better. And so, and again, I think that goes back to our coaches and how they're recruiting the student athlete.
Right.
They are looking at what they're doing in the classroom. They're monitoring this and keeping that alive.
And to give the programs here at Rio their just due, women's track and field led the way. They had 17 members that were named scholar athletes in the conference. Softball and men's soccer with 12 each, 11 for baseball, 10 for men's track and field. And when you start looking, the programs that had the big numbers in terms of scholar athletes are also some of the same programs that got it done on the field.
That's right. That's right. So, you know, those are all good numbers, and something that we talk about all the time, and you know, it's something we need to publicize.
Well, we want to move on. Obviously, the spring sports have come to an end. There were some postseason honors that rolled in. Women's softball finishes number 20 in the final NAIA coaches poll. I know you and I kind of thought, based on the fact that they were within one game of going to the World Series, dropping 3 spots was, even only 3 spots, was still, I think, a little too much. And the bottom line is, if they end up in the World Series and even go down there and lose 2 games, they probably end up in the top 10.
Right. Yeah. And you know, there's no doubt that the team that was put on the field this year was maybe one of the best, if not the best, softball teams that we've had here in the history of Rio Grande, and they've done that by moving is farther along in a tournament in the current format, and also wins, the number of wins. And you know, Chris has done a great job with these young ladies, and with the idea of, you know, he's expecting excellence, and that's what he's getting out of those.
2 players, Kelsey Conkey and Michaela Kreiner, named second team All-Americans in the NAIA. 4 players, Kreiner, Conkey, Jenna Jones, and Alex Stevens, named all Great Lakes region by the National Fast Pitch Coaches Association, and then Kreiner ends up on the second team All-American on that list, and that's a young lady who's just a freshman, had an outstanding year, and boy, you can only hope for what she's going to be able to do over the next 3 seasons.
Well, when you think about this, Randy, we lost 9 players this year. 9 players, not all starters, but we lost a total of 9. That's a lot of experience out there on the field. And then the 2 players that have the highest accolade are a freshman and a sophomore. And that's kind of interesting that, you know, we've got some still left. We've got some good players still left, and with the idea of the recruiting and bringing in players, they want to play at some place that's successful, and they want. And you know, again, Chris has done a great job, and it's. You know, I think he feels like it can continue.
We talked with Coach Wilson about recruiting. Coach Hammond's a guy who, ever since returning from the national tournament in Grand Rapids, Michigan, seemingly has been on the road every weekend.
That's right. I don't know. He was in Cleveland last weekend, Columbus the weekend before that, and who knows, he's got somewhere to go this July 4th. That's a big softball weekend as well.
Well, his success, as we mentioned, has been unprecedented, really, from what he's been able to do the first 2 years, and they look to build on that. The other part of our spring sports honors that we want to talk about, a guy who's playing currently this summer for the Chillicothe Paints, and that's Darian Lewis, an honorable mention All-American on the baseball side, and a guy that got it done not only as a pitcher but as a third baseman as well.
Right, and he at the plate, I mean, if he wasn't pitching, he was definitely going to see some pitches, because you know, the guy could just about do it all. And you know, wherever he was, he's a lot of times you talk about, you kind of put him wherever what position it is, and he may be one of your best that you have in that position. So, you know, Darian has had a good career here, and a young man who is very humble with what he has, and it's good to see good people like that receive those awards.
I want to mention that not only is he playing for the Chillicothe Paints, Zach Harvey, who's a member of the Rio baseball team, also playing for the Paints this season. So if you're up around the Chillicothe area and want to take in some baseball, there's a couple of Rio Grande guys that are on the 2017 team. And before we want to wrap up, want to also get a word in about our camps that have taken place. Volleyball last week had just over 80 campers, pretty good turnout. Basketball going on as we speak, men's basketball, how about 333, I think was the final number, and that's actually down a little bit.
Right. And you know, the interesting thing about our campus right now is because of those numbers, we shut down all of the parking lots behind Line Center, and they've turned into Basketball City, you know, Hoop City, I think is what he refers to that as. All the way down to lower courts in those lower parking lots, all the way up. I think there's 7 total full courts that he has playing outside. They love it. The kids just absolutely love playing outside.
Yeah, the crazy part about this camp too is and Coach French will be the first to tell you, it's a lot of repeat business.
Absolutely. And he is. He just told me he had some that couldn't make it this year, which he was disappointed about, but my guess is they're planning already for next year, because it's a year-round event, keeping those kids informed about the dates and what's going to happen here at the Hard Work Camp.
Well, and you're dealing with a lot of other camps going on too. I know Marshall's camp going on this week, and still to draw 333, and I'll bet he ends up with more than they do down there.
Probably 3 times that.
Probably so. Well, that's going to wrap it up for our June edition of Eye on the Storm. We'll be back in July with another look as we get ever closer to the start of the 2017-18 academic and athletic year. And we appreciate our head golf coach Keith Wilson for joining us this afternoon. And again, for Jeff Lanham, Randy Payton saying so long, and we'll talk with you next month on Eye on the Storm.